morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Horses, the Friday edition. We have an 8-race card today. Sarah Abadwi joined by Paul Verderosa. You had the opportunity to host yesterday. Got to hang out with my buddy Matthew DeSantis. How did everything go?
He did a great job yesterday. It was a lot of fun having Matt on, a lot of great information. We both commiserated and suffered again with our top picks running second or third, which seems
Misery
to be
loves company. That's okay.
a recurrent theme, joining the club with everybody, but had fun sitting in the chair. Happy you're back in that chair and I'm sitting over here. Not that I don't mind, but it's more fun being over here than it is over there.
A whole new world over here. Well, today we have plenty of racing action on tap, and of course you'll want to get signed up and play through NYRA Bets as usual. You can head on over to nyrabets.com, sign up with that deposit match sign up bonus of $200, promo code match200 nyrabets.com, or you can scan that QR code. Today we are offering a $20 Derby Prep win bonus. If you bet $25 on the Springboard Mile at Remington Park, you can earn an extra $20. Opt in over at nyrabets.com. Glenn Gary's in that race. Certainly looks awfully tough. I honestly haven't looked at much of the rest of the field, but good Derby Prep win bonus for that if you play through NYRA Bets. What else do we have? We have the cross country pick 5. Every day that we have racing at Aqueduct and Oaklawn, we're offering a cross-country pick 5 wager with them. It covers our last 2 races here at Aqueduct, as well as races 7 through 9 over at Oaklawn, starting at 3:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Complicated sequence today that I will have a ticket up for during America's Day at the races, but it's a tough group of 5 there. And then, of course, you can catch all of the action, or some of the action. Coverage starting at 2:30 today on FS2. We go until 6 o'clock, covering the later half of our card here at Aqueduct, as well as plenty of racing over at Oaklawn Park. And race number 1 today features the maiden claiming event, $20,000 tag, 6 furlong race. And Belle of the Ball is certainly the horse to beat in this spot, coming in 4 to 5 on the morning line, taking similar money as we have the early stage of wagering right now. And I mean, this is just one that ran third last time out at Keeneland, coming from further off the pace, almost got the place photo, and was running behind a horse that was a huge price that day who got the win in Insightful Miss. But Insightful Miss did come back to win with a pretty similar number. It's a little bit of a mixed bag exiting that race after that, with some improving slightly, others not so much, others taking a drop in class or switching surfaces. But based on the numbers this one has run already, and going first off, the claim for Linda Rice, just the horse to beat in the opener.
Yeah, horse to beat for me here in the opener. And ran okay off that long layoff last time out in the replay we showed. Hoping just for some improvement second time off of the layoff, and Linda to keep that train going with those Kentucky horses that she's been bringing here. Ain't Broke looked like a superstar yesterday, getting the job done again. So I'd like to see a little bit more speed out of her. Hopefully we'll see that second time back off of the layoff. But just looking at the rest of this field, I mean, I feel like she's the one that's had the least amount of chances. That's probably run the best, I guess, out of a group. I mean, I don't know. I guess a horse like Graceful is, we've been seeing a recurring theme where horses have now started to break their maidens now. The light bulb starts to come on, after like start 13, 15, 19. So David Aragona brought up a great point yesterday. If people didn't see it, somebody should show risk-free the replay of yesterday's race for reviewers. Yes. I love that. But for me, I thought Belle of the Ball just made a lot of sense out of here. And, I'm just going to suck it up with a short price with this horse.
It certainly seems like the one that you want for sure going into the spot, and I don't blame anybody for singling, but the lack of early speed is a little bit of a concern in this spot. And I just went to a horse that I'm hoping has some speed first time out. You never know with these first time starters, and it's not as though the recent works necessarily indicate that this one's going to be flashing out of the gate all that quickly. But if you go back in the page, there were some sharper works once upon a time for this horse, who goes out for the Bruce Levine barn. And just I wanted a new face that at least seemed potentially logical in this spot. And while none of the siblings are necessarily superstars by any means, this one is a half to 3 winners. The dam was second on debut in and off the turf race, and then did move over to the grass for the rest of her career. So there could be enough, if this horse has any early speed, to be a little bit interesting. But I agree, Belle of the Ball is the horse in this spot. You mentioned Graceful, just 0 for 13 so far, but again, a horse that just has the races to go back to that would make her a player in here. And then The only other horse that I could make even a case for would be Kiara towards the outside, who had some speed in the past, but since she's returned to the races, those last two have not been very promising.
Yeah, my biggest problem with her is that her best races were either on the off track or on turf. So for me, and the last two were not good. Hope on the drop down. Last time she took money and didn't do any running whatsoever. So, I mean, I'm going to use probably the 2, 3, and 5 in here in any multis and hope to get through.
Fair enough. Going into the second race, we saw Strapped come out of here. It's a starter allowance, going the mile and an eighth. And then I think the major question is here is who really wants this mile and an eighth distance? And while the answer might be nobody, truly, I think that there are certainly some horses that appreciate a little bit more ground to work with more so than others. And we'll start off looking at St. James, who is a horse that two back really got left out of the gate and made up significant ground. You can see breaks a little bit slowly towards the inside there, is far back from the rest of this field, and this was a race that was won by a horse in Tenebris, who we did see come back and get the win via disqualification at Laurel in his last start. Then he stepped up a little bit in terms of who he was facing, at least to me, running into some good horses last time. And that was a day where I felt as though you wanted to be a little bit more inside and forward. And he's a horse that, as you can see, gives himself a lot to do and was making this wide move in here. Ends up finishing second. It was kind of the same story last time. Made this wide move and ended up finishing off the board in there. But that was not how you wanted to win races that day.
No, and while he was against the bias, like you said last time, I don't know, man. The fastest figs in the race for sure. The horse is just still 1 for 18. And it's not like the horse has a lot of speed coming out of the gate anyway. So, I mean, even if the horse gets left, it just leaves the horse more to do, you know? It's not like this horse is been right up on paces, and it's not like this horse hasn't had fast paces to close into anyway and still hasn't really gotten the job done. I know from a speed figure standpoint, this horse is the fastest horse, but I just thought that there was some other interesting horses in here, especially considering this horse is 1 for 18 still.
Which is a fair point. And you've gone to Masterwork, who's a little bit more lightly raced than some of the others in here. First off the claim for the Morley Barn. He has good numbers with this type of move.
Yeah, 8 for 34, 18 in the money, 299 ROI on the dirt, first off the claim, going a route here at NYRA. He's going to have to work a trip from the outside in here, but you know what? That last race, that was a good step forward for this horse, and 2 starts back ran into much better horses. I know this horse can get the distance, one down at Laurel breaking its maiden going a mile on the 16th, so just thought that this horse would be an okay enough price to give a shot from on the outside going first off the claim.
Yeah, I think this horse is a live chance as well. I picked this one second. Speed in this race is kind of a concern to me, and I'm hoping that Ruben Silvera is aggressive with a horse like Aula, who didn't run that well last time in a similar race that St. James comes out of. And I just thought that, yes, he was a huge price that day, but he was towards the inside and sitting close enough to that pace that, yes, I'd like him to have run a little bit better. But perhaps the muddy seal track didn't really suit him, and he was not directly on the rail. He was at least a couple of paths off. So I think that maybe if he can be forward in here and end up controlling this race, he could have a chance of getting the distance against a level like this, because I just didn't really see a ton of other speed in here. And I know maybe Anthracite seems like the other one, but they have not been intent on being aggressive with him in his last 2 starts.
No, and that's the horse that I'd really like to see, and I have him second. That's the horse I'd like to see have a little bit more speed and get out on top, see Jose Gomez be a little bit more aggressive and send, because he's had speed in the past, and know he can go the 2 turns. He did okay over at Monmouth in that mile race, and he's actually game, so he's improved a little bit. At times, I mean, I don't know how much more he can actually improve overall as far as a body of work. I know he can, well, they can all get the distance. It's just a matter of who gets to the wire first. I mean,
Sure.
we're splitting hairs with some of the stuff. But, I mean, I just thought maybe he could be a little bit forward in here, maybe off a horse like Alla in here. And then I guess the question is, what do you do with a horse that we have fourth in here like Memphis, who's probably going to take a little bit of money in here? And I wasn't sure why they went 7 furlongs last time out, because I think this horse is going to appreciate going 2 turns. I just don't trust this horse.
He just has no speed. That's the problem I have with him. And I think maybe they thought on the cutback that he would get a little bit more pace to close into last time. But he did run pretty well 2 back, but the pace was kind of coming apart in that race with Thunderian and Brooklyn Diamonds. And I thought that that was more a function of how the pace was playing out in that race more than him really taking a step forward or necessarily appreciating the distance. So he can win. I think that he kind of needs a setup, though, and that's why I have him a little bit further down.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, 8s and 4s, little bits of 3s.
All right, moving on to race number 3. Saw a couple of scratches in here. I know one that you were interested in with Cowan not going to play today, a horse that certainly seems like the class of this field. But we have a couple going out for the Bill Mott barn and Baby Yoda, as well as Nova Rags, who we can take a look at his last win. And these are both horses that certainly seem to have some sort of back class and at least numbers that make them major players in here. But I think the problem that I have, at least a little bit with both of them, is that they like to come from a little bit further off the pace. And they're not exactly, at least lately, for Baby Yoda winning types.
No, I kind of like Baby Yoda a little bit more today simply because of the cutback to 6 furlongs, and I just think Baby Yoda will be in a good enough spot. But in Nova Rags' case, I mean, there was nothing really wrong with Nova Rags going back before the layoff. I mean, last race, you figure this horse definitely got into a little bit of trouble at the break and slow at the start, and had some traffic issues, so it's probably going to be much better off for that race, second off of a layoff. But I just feel like Baby Yoda's beat this horse already a few times on the square. So for me, I just put Baby Yoda on top of Nova Rags, but didn't even pick either one of them on top. And here, this race, I got decimated by scratches because my 2 picks came out.
Right, and Baby Yoda, I mean, he certainly has the back class. He's been graded stakes faced. He's running a grade 1, facing the likes of Cody's Wish in the Forego in the past. I mean, he's graded stakes place, but his last 2 races, I mean, even his last 3, I mean, I can forgive a Charlestown race from anybody, but they haven't been the same types of races that he's run in the past, so I have some concerns with him as well. And with how I thought that this race was going to play out in terms of the pace, I ended up going to a horse who certainly has plenty of questions as well, coming off almost a year layoff in B-Doc, but he can be forward, and he's a horse that he kind of does his best running at Keeneland, and that sort of lives in isolation in terms of where he's produced the best numbers and performances in his career, and subsequently also where he's been training so well lately. But he is one that he was sitting off of a fairly decent pace for the 7 furlongs when he was able to break his maiden. He got a 92 Beyer speed figure for that effort. In other starts at Keeneland, he's run in stakes races. He tried the Pennsylvania Derby. I mean, I like the cutback in distance for him, and while the form is a little bit of a question coming off a layoff, I thought that now coming in fresh, he'd be a little bit more aggressive, and he was one I wanted to take a shot with.
It's funny, when the scratches happened, he was originally about 5th for me in here, and then when the scratches happened, I re-looked at the race again, and I just can't get past the fact that I know you mentioned the Keeneland races and all, but see, complete opposite of you, I just feel like his better races are going longer.
Really?
And I just don't know if the 6 furlongs today, if he breaks sharp, is he going to get hooked by a horse like Bourbon Music from the inside? And then coming off the layoff, seen a lot of horses around here lately come off the layoffs and just not fire fully. So for me, you're probably right. I'm probably wrong with the way things have been going for me lately, with the way my picks have been sometimes. But I really just wanted to give this horse one shot here and see what he had before I could actually fully take him on top.
That's a fair point. I mean, it's not like he's coming back and facing a bunch of nobodies. There are some good horses within this field, and you do have questions to answer with him. We'll see how he ultimately runs in here. I think definitely one to keep your eye on going forwards. Where did you go in here with Spun and One?
I thought last time out down at Delaware, it was a pretty passive ride that he got. He got shuffled a bit, and got taken out of the race. Then he got put on the outside a little bit. He didn't do much running after that. 2 starts back in the slop, that race wasn't that bad, and he's got races to go back to that are okay. I figured he would be the one that would be maybe a couple of lengths out of it that can maybe get first run on some of the closers in here. We've seen this before. David Jacobson ships them out of town, see if he gets a win out of them. He didn't. He's right back here in New York. Manny Franco's ridden him before and won on him before. So I don't think he's going to be that big of a price in here, but I don't think he's going to be the favorite either, because I really thought He's My Honey Badger was the better part of the entry.
That's a fair point. I think we'll solidly see Baby Yoda be that kind of standout in terms of who ends up being your favorite. And here's just a name that everybody's so familiar with on this circuit. But yeah, I agree. I think that he will be a horse that is a little bit more forward than either of the 2 for Bill Mott. So an interesting race in there in the 3rd. Moving on to the 4th race, a maiden claiming event for the New York Breds, going 7 furlongs, the fillies and mares in here. And we have the class dropping for the first time, Valoose, who's a horse that's run well on both the dirt and the turf, just hasn't quite gotten the job done yet. And we'll see a race where she ended up finishing 2nd with a 68 Beyer speed figure, and actually what was her dirt debut quite a while ago, July of 2022 in there. And look, she's the horse to beat. I don't have any big problems with her. I'm just a little tired of her.
Yeah, I tried to beat her in here too. I mean, she's faced better horses on dirt than she's facing today. I mean, I don't think there's that much question about that. And she's run races that are competitive enough to win, but we're getting into another situation now where she's had 11 chances. And it's not like she hasn't been bet in any start, whether it's on the turf or the dirt. So for me, I mean, listen, I'm using her, but I'm also trying to beat her in here.
And you've gone to the Todd Pletcher trainee that's only disappointed 2 times and now drops in class for a tag for the first time. Started out on dirt, then switched over to the turf, and now they go back to the dirt in here, and she does drop in for a tag. She ran okay. First time out, she got bet that day, and I think that she was facing some okay horses. We'll see Better Humor Me in the nightcap today, and just getting that class relief now. But I don't know. I mean, she is one that can certainly win, but I think that she's going to be kind of a short price as well.
Well, I mean, Todd's got really good numbers, solid numbers with this move. 8 for 13 with 11 in the money, 359 ROI. Going turf to dirt, maiden special weight, maiden claimers here at NYRA the last 5 years. And this horse kind of got put in a bad spot too last time out. I know it was on the grass, had to check out, and then was wide. I just think the drop with dirt today, and against this kind of fields where, you know, she'll probably be close up in a race like this, I don't see that many killers in here, so I'm willing to take a shot with this horse who's probably going to be second choice in here, maybe third choice, but I don't know. It's hard for me to take the 8 in here fully, but I just want to go with those 2 in here and see if I can get by.
All right, fair point. She has had less chances than Valouz. A long shot that I have a little bit of interest in is Mo de Morning Grouch, who I remember watching her dirt debut too back and thinking that I just wish the number was a little bit faster for her, because I thought that she ran pretty well, showing some good speed in that race for the $40,000 tag. And that was also off a little bit of a freshening. And we'll take a look at her race as we are here last time out, where she did drop in for the $30,000 tag. And again, she showed some good early speed in here, even after getting bumped a little bit at the break. Ultimately comes up short and finishes second to Lady Banker, who was dropping in class. And I know that she needs to get a little bit faster in terms of who she's going to be facing in here, and that this is likely a much tougher field as far as who we have in here who's dropping in for a tag for the first time. But I don't know. She's shown some decent speed. She draws towards the inside again, and I think that maybe with one more step forward on the dirt, even though her better numbers have been on the grass overall, I thought that she was a little bit interesting at a price.
Listen, she's going to be in front in here if she breaks, and horses will get brave in these kind of fields if they're in front. So there's worse 10-to-1 shots you could go
That's
at and Pat Reynolds is going good as well.
Yes, and Essential Life debuts in here for the George Weaver barn, a horse that generally when I see a purchase price of around the $52,000 range as a yearling, and then they debut for the $30,000 as an older horse, it's not necessarily a good sign. However, this one actually has some pedigree. It's a full sister to Collegeville Girl, who was a decent horse that won 6 times on the dirt sprinting, and actually did okay first time out as well. So I don't love that this is where this horse begins her career, but at the same time, against this kind of field, if you have some questions about the ones that are dropping in class, could be an interesting firster towards the outside.
Yeah, for sure. And the dam was a sprinter, so she's got that in her favor.
All right. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll hear from our sponsors at Saratoga Water.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi with Paul Verderosa, and we'll get into the 5th race, which is actually a pretty competitive field for the level, $12,500 claiming tag, going a mile. And we'll take a look at 3 horses that ran against each other last time out. Blake B getting the win that day over Hammer and Amr and Goldini. And Blakeby is a horse that I had really wanted to see be more aggressively handled and was finally more forward in this spot, was able to get the win. And something that I had then realized, thanks to Andy Sterling, is that he kind of has this pattern where he'll come in off a layoff and run okay, and then second off a layoff, have this bigger number and get the win. And I think that that really reigns true in here with how we saw him come in, get the 73 buyer, then win with an 80 in here. And whenever he's kind of topped out around that range, we don't really go on from there. It's sort of a backwards regression after that. So you and I don't have him in here at all. We're going to the horses that we're finishing behind him in there. But I think that that pattern is certainly worth noticing. And if it continues to repeat itself, he's a fade for me today.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with you on that. It was a much more aggressive ride. Now he's got a horse like Co-Conspirator who's stretching out too, that I'm sure will probably be pressing from the inside as well. Maybe My Friend's Beer's not too far off of the pace. Listen, I know. Believe me, I know. It's going to be hard to swallow, to take another short price on Hammer and Hammer. And I just ended up landing on that horse in here simply because when you take the whole body of work, I think that this horse has run well, considering he's hit the board in 6 of 9 since that last win that this horse has had. It's not like Lane Leslie rode this horse bad either. I know he picks up Manny Franco today, which is probably going to make the price even shorter. Hammer and Hammer is what he is at this point.
He's in great form,
Yeah,
too. I mean,
you
his
know,
last 3 races have all been very consistent.
Yeah, I'm just hoping he has one more win in him to close out this year in 2023. So I ended up going to him in here, and I just thought that he was, a logical horse in here with an outside post.
I agree. I mean, he's the horse to beat. He's the most consistent as of late, and any of his last 3 races make him a major player in here. And I know that he was defeated by common foes that he'll be facing again today, but I agree that he's a better horse than either of them. And then the only wild card in here who you have second, who I ended up putting up on top, is Centavo, who does return to the races after a little bit of a freshening. And I think that maybe you forgive the race last time out because it was going 1.25 miles versus better horses. And he was then off since then. And so if you go to his start 2 back, he was declared a non-starter versus Tougher going the 1.1 miles. After that, he's running third behind the good version of Classic Mark as well as Mystical Curlin. And he's just a horse that, if you get back to the form that he was in this spring, has some consistent numbers that could put him right there with a horse like Hammer and Hammer if he comes back fresh and ready to go. And while the numbers off of layoff like this aren't necessarily great for Napal Chatterpaul, it is a very small sample size of only 14. Only 3 of those have been on the dirt. Centavo was one of them, and the other 2 were 31-1 and 49-1. So not really as well intentioned here.
Yeah, and this is the right drop for a horse like this, and I completely love the fact Omar Hernandez Moreno is back on this horse. He gets along with this horse. He knows this horse. This horse has run well for him today. This is the right drop and a right spot for a horse like this to pop at a price.
I think so too. I think that he's very dangerous in here, and I thought, well, if I like him enough, I might as well put him on top because while I think Hammer and Hammer is the horse to beat, as you mentioned, he's going to be kind of a short price, and he's been a short price in his last couple of races and hasn't quite gotten the job done. So I think this is a race that's pretty interesting. You have to use all of him as well as Goldini, who certainly makes a lot of sense, Centavo, and then I thought even Pit Boss getting back to a distance that I think he'll appreciate a little bit more, going the mile in here after cutting back first off the claim for Wayne Potts last time. He's towards the outside, he adds the blinkers, and I wonder how aggressive they might be with him.
Yeah, he's probably going to be in chase mode from the outside, maybe 2 or 3 wide with the trip he's going to pull, and I just can't get away from the fact that he's 0 for 9 at
He's
here
not
at
a
Aqueduct
winner.
City. Yeah, he's not an Aqueduct kind of guy, but he's probably going to show more speed with a more aggressive ride from the outside and the switch to Lane Leslie with the blinkers on.
And you think that Co-Conspirator is also going to be one that's forward, now stretching back out in distance?
I would think so, coming off of that. I mean, I'm not sure how fast the pace is actually going to be in here. You look at some of his quarter times going 2 turns over Finger Lakes, but I mean, he did go 23, earlier on in his career, but 24s. We'll see where he shakes out. I mean, I would think from the inside, they're going to show a little bit more speed on the inside. So that's why I was hoping a horse like Hammer and Hammer and Centavo would get a race set up for them.
I think so too, and it'll be Jose Gomez on Co-Conspirator today. Rajiv Marat off his mount. Something you had mentioned that happened yesterday. I wasn't here, so seems like he's off today, but we're hoping he comes back this
Hoping
weekend.
he feels better, and Andre Worry's on the 3 too in this race. Forever
right.
Wicked.
Good to know. Moving on to race number 6, we have a maiden special weight for the fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, going the mile distance. And I think it really revolves around the 4 horses that we kind of have in a shuffled order. You don't have Misintention involved in your top 4. Why are you against this one?
When I looked at this race again, I kind of felt like this horse was going to be coming from off of the pace in here. And I kind of just felt like as probably ending up going to be the favorite in here, this was a favorite that I was kind of looking to take a swing against. I just thought that there was a few more interesting places to go. And not that this horse hasn't improved in his last 3 starts, but this horse was a big price last time out. And I know the field is better than probably what he's facing today, but I don't know, going the mile, coming here. The race that he ran at Saratoga back last year, I know it was completely different circumstances. He showed speed, but for the most part, he's come from off the pace, and he's just been up against it in all of his races and not really kicked much.
Yeah, I think kind of an abbreviated 2-year-old season and running behind a horse like Prank, who was very highly touted first time out and then facing some good ones second time out on the dirt. And it was kind of that speed and fade type of performance. But you're right, this horse has not been forward in her last couple of races since returning as a 3-year-old. And that's definitely a concern because that's kind of where you want to be in the majority of the races that we've seen at Aqueduct, especially this winter. So that's a concern for me too, and I think that's completely valid. But I do like seeing the progressive improvement over the last couple of races, kind of taking those slow steps forward, going from the 55 Beyer speed figure to the 62 and then the 70 last time, instead of sort of having that one standout number, which is kind of the case with a horse like Sherrills Delight, who that 75 Beyer speed figure, yes, it was the first time that this horse was going a route of ground on the dirt, but that's something that we had not seen in the past. So kind of a little bit of a question mark there. So I think that these are horses that make a lot of sense, but they're a little bit tough to trust. And then you've gone to a horse in Rhea Valentine, who I think should be at least forwardly placed in here.
Yeah, I love that this horse the last 2 starts has shown much better speed out of the gate. And 2 starts back, I mean, Revolving Credit was odds on that day. So, and that was a much improved effort anyway, even getting beat the 10.5 lengths. And then last time out, I thought the horse ran just fine. I mean, it has figures to compete, now cuts back to the mile, has a nice mid-pack post. Javier Castellano gets aboard today. And I'm thinking probably this horse is going to be 3rd choice in here, maybe 4th choice in here when you see some of the other races. I just thought at a price and with improved speed and improved numbers the last 2 times, that this horse makes a lot of sense on the cutback for me.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, she did break through the gate last time out, so maybe some of that attributes to kind of a poor performance overall, but didn't really change much in terms of her Beyer speed figure in that last out effort. And I agree. I think this is a horse that's going to be forward. And then another horse that kind of makes some sense is the number 3 La Gravina, who you have second, who I have a little bit further down, but just one that ran well first time out to finish second. Linda Rice, not necessarily known for her first time starter success, so was then the favorite last time and didn't run quite as well. So then you kind of wonder, was it the off going at Saratoga? Was that more of a playing into how this one was able to run so well first time out and then sort of regress last time? But I think that a little bit more upside than some of the horses drawn towards the outside as well.
Yeah, and I wonder if last time it was just a factor of being on chase mode for most of the race too, and then, you know, kind of got steadied late anyway and just didn't feel like finishing off in there. So I'm hoping that in a spot like this on the stretch out to the mile, again, you don't know if this horse is going to show a little bit more speed and be on the lead or be forwardly placed. But again, we're running into that familiar pattern of horses that figure that come off these breaks, stretch out, they run well for 6 furlongs, or as they head towards the 8th pole, they start to get a little bit tired out there. So, I mean, you know, certainly probably won't mind the mile. I don't think he'll be on chase mode in here either, but like I said, she figures in here. I had a little, like I said, looking at this race, I mean, you could go in about 4 or 5 different directions in here. I just kind of knew that a horse like Miss Intention for me was probably at the bottom of that list, just because I was looking for something a little bit more valuable in here that has a little bit more forward placement.
That's fair enough. All right, moving on to the 7th race. I thought this was actually a really good field that we have assembled. Allowance optional claiming race for the 2-year-old New York bred colts, going the 6 furlongs and only runs 1 scratch in here, so we do have a full field of 10. And this is an interesting race, and we'll take a look at 2 that do come out of a stakes race in the notebook, in Detective Tom as well as Agalos the Great. And we saw Detective Tom really rebound in this start, showing some good early speed in here, but being able to sustain it on that slight cutback in distance and getting a dry dirt track for the first time. Almost pulled off a huge upset at 15-1 in here. Agalos the Great is the horse trying to make up that ground towards the inside. And I think he just was in kind of an uncomfortable position throughout the race in here as he's trying to close in. Maybe got a little bit intimidated by being so close on the inside, and they ultimately finished 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, I thought that was a bad spot that Agalos the Great ended up in, so I wonder how much that affected him, because he may have actually won that race had he been on the outside instead of being on the inside. So maybe he just doesn't want to be down in there. He's still learning a little bit, even though he's had 5 starts. But in Detective Tom's case, I mean, maybe he's just the fastest horse in this race today, especially from what he showed last time in a field like today where there's going to be some speed in here. But that was a much improved effort on a dry track at a big price today. And I see no reason why you're going to change the tactics today either. You're going to send that horse as long as he breaks from that position. And I mean, if you like him and you think he's the fastest of the fastest, he's going to be a big price.
I think so. For what you got from him last time and having that sort of reversal of form, I think that he will certainly be a fair price and does look to be forward in this spot. A horse that will be coming from off the pace, though, is the number 9, Elysian Meadows, who was a little bit of surprise when breaking his maiden last time out. And he beat a horse that came right back to win, and I kind of think that he's a little bit interesting further down if you're looking for a horse that will be coming from off of things, because this was a horse that didn't break all that quickly, showed a lot of maturity, sort of rallying in behind horses, taking kickback, getting a good education out of that race, and you know that he at least ran into a live horse in the likes of Big Prankster.
Yeah, and you like to see that too, especially with 2-year-olds when they're able to work out these kind of trips and the kickback doesn't bother them and they look professional and they come running down the lane. And he ran a good race here to run down Big Prankster, who's getting out a little bit. It was professional for me. It was good enough for me. He's usable in this spot today with any improvement. And you know that if there's at least some pace in here, he's a horse that's going to come running.
Absolutely. I think that he's certainly a little bit interesting in here. A horse that you ended up picking on top, Mischief Joke, is one that he had a couple of opportunities and wasn't quite getting the job done for the Mike Maker barn, but ultimately he gets his win, and then they've tried Stakes Company since then, and he really didn't even run that badly two back over a sloppy sealed track. I think that you can just forgive the mile effort. Now he cuts back to sprinting.
Yeah, I mean, call it what you want. He got a rep as a hanger. I mean, that's the reputation he was starting to get. It's okay. Then they figure it out, and they're like, "I'll tell you about this hanging stuff," and they get the job done. And this horse ran well when he broke his maiden and put it all together. And like you said, the race in the slop, you can kind of forgive that race a little bit. He didn't run bad. What you're talking about's a pretty good New York bred for a 2-year-old, and he doesn't want to go the mile. So, and I don't even think that race was that terrible, to be honest with you. And I don't think the mile is where he wants to be. So he's going to get winners for a first time today on a fast track, and I think he's a horse that's going to lay a few lengths off the pace, and he's a horse at a price that's worth looking at that's going to come late in here.
All right, Mischief Joke for you certainly has plenty of experience and seems to have turned a corner since finally getting the job done and breaking his maiden. I like Slam & Gold, a horse that has a big pedigree. He's drawn towards the outside, so I don't necessarily love how far out he's going to be, but he took a nice step forward when getting the job done last time out, earning a 70 Beyer speed figure over Liberty Central. This is a horse that we'll see in some Stakes Company tomorrow, but he was one, there were sort of always these pedigree expectations in a way, but he wasn't necessarily bet like it until last time. He didn't really get out of the gate on debut. He showed more speed second time out behind Solo's Fury, and then really put things together in this effort and got a nice number doing so. And I just feel as though he's been working well since then. He certainly figures to continue improving. Eventually, they might even try grass in the future. Of course, he's out of Bar of Gold by Tapit, so he's a full to Coinage as well, who ran well on both surfaces. And I think that he just projects to get a nice outside stalking trip, and sort of depending on what everybody else decides to do towards his inside, how aggressive they are with Detective Tom, that he can at least sit just off of that.
Yeah, listen, you know, I got him second, so I'm not way against him at all in this spot. And I know some people say he didn't beat the best field when he broke his maiden, but he did it the right way. So it was a big step forward. He's improved with every start, which you like to see. He's starting to put it together. He's got an outside post in here, and like you said, he shouldn't be too far out of it. He was the other horse that I wanted to use. I'd like to, you know, I know Agalos the Great has been going well. He's a horse I'd like to try and fade today at a short price, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's enough interesting things going on outside of him that you can certainly try to get past him in here and sort of hunt some bigger prices. I think that he might be the most talented horse in the field based on what we've seen so far. But these are 2-year-olds that are still growing and maturing, and I think that others might have another step forward in them where I feel like we kind of know who he is now.
Yeah, and we've seen his body of work, and he is competitive at this level. And listen, he can win. We're not saying he can't, but there are some other alternatives in here at prices that you may just want to take a look at.
All right, really interesting 7th race. I think this came up a tough field. Closing things out, race number 8 today. It's an allowance race for the New York bred fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. And I think that the horse that's going to take the bulk of the wagering attention is the horse that I picked second and you have third, and that's Better Humor Me, who adds the blinkers on. projects to likely be the speed in this spot and is a little bit more lightly raced than some of her competitors in here. And then you also just have a lot of horses who are kind of primarily turf horses that are trying this surface for the first time, but you've went to one of them that at least has some dirt pedigree.
Yeah, Super's Lucky Lady. Waltrall's Lady Hannah was such a cool horse. When Diane Nelson rode that horse, the late great Diane Nelson, she was always a sweetheart when she was around here. I have a great picture with Diane Nelson. After she won her only Grade 1 of her career on AC Ducey, she won the Prioress. So, yeah, have a cool
Did you
picture.
get that signed or what?
Yeah, she did actually.
Oh,
She
okay,
did. Yeah, I
cool.
got her downstairs one day here at Aqueduct. Actually, she was like, "Oh my God!" She's like, "I remember this picture," and she signed it for me. Yeah,
That's
she's
really
been gone for a
cool.
couple of years now, but yeah, she was a lot of fun around
Yeah,
here. She was
hold on
such a
to that
sweetheart.
one. That's
yeah,
great.
So she rode Waltrall's Lady Hannah, who was a dirt sprinter mainly. So. Well, basically broke her maiden first time sprinting from what I remember. So, but you know what it was at the end of the day when I looked at this race, yes, that Better Humor Me is on the improve, has every right to improve, could win this race, is probably the speed of this race, is probably going out to the front. I've just seen enough of some of the other horses in here that I just went to some different faces. And I know, we say it all the time, horses get bet off of their turf form, and we see that all the time, and sometimes they don't run up to it. This horse at least has shown some speed going 6 on the turf, which I like. So if this horse can break, and we saw it even in the mile and 16th race, this horse at least can be up close. Whether or not this horse is going to transfer the form to the dirt, we'll find out. But for me, in a race like this, took a shot with a horse like this. I know this horse is probably going to end up being second choice in here. But for me, I figured just with the pedigree that this horse had on the dam side and seeing enough of some of the others, I was going to just mix up about 4 or 5 horses in here and go at it.
Yeah, I think this is a race where you kind of have to go a little bit deeper to find the winner. And I went to a little bit of a price in the number 1 Fancy Feline, who is a horse that does come out of Finger Lakes, but has run pretty competitively on this circuit while in the James Bond barn. And we can take a look at her ultimately finishing 3rd behind another horse in Jackson Avenue. And this was going 5.5 furlongs at Finger Lakes. So I also wonder if these two will be situated a little bit closer now going the 7 furlong distance. And Fancy Feline's a horse that really didn't break all that well that day, was far back, and the winner of this race got the most perfect rail skimming ride, Tequila, to come right up the inside and get the win while the pace was sort of falling apart in here, and you see Jackson Avenue and Fancy Feline sort of closing in late. So I think with the added distance, they'll both be a little bit closer in this spot. And well, I don't necessarily think that we're going to see the 70 Beyer speed figure that Fancy Feline got when finishing second to I'm Having a Moment at a big price like we did see earlier this year. She has plenty of races on this circuit that could make her a player at numbers that fit at this level. So I wanted to take a little bit of a shot with her at a price, a horse that I think can at least compete on her better days on this circuit.
Yeah, Rachel Sells has been going well, too, out of town. She won a couple of races the past week. I saw her over at Charlestown and Penn National, so that's great because I like Rachel. But I don't know. I think this horse is going to be close for sure, and probably closer than Jackson Avenue is for sure. I just can't get over that this horse has just been stuck in this condition forever, whether it's been the non-winners of 3L up at Finger Lakes or the non-winners of 1 here. And I know this horse does have competitive numbers to come back to, and if the race does come apart, at least this horse will probably get first running on this horse. I couldn't make this horse, but I wouldn't blame anybody or talk them off of this horse either at a price to get up there.
That's fair. I mean, this is a wide open race. And I think a horse that people might gravitate towards too as well is Clover Street, who just kind of has the dirt form where others do not. But those last 2 races have been kind of disappointing.
Yeah, they're just bad.
And she's been a short price in both of them.
Yeah.
And just has really not shown up.
She's been the favorite in both of them. It just hasn't really done any running. I mean, it's 3rd start off of a layoff here. Maybe 7 furlongs will help a little bit. I mean, when stretched out, she's run some good races at 7 furlongs. Whether or not they'll be fast enough to win in here, we'll see. Or she could turn her form around, too.
She used to be okay. I mean, she was running second to Fancy Joke, Angelique in the past. So if we see a horse like that again in this spot, she's certainly a player, but I just couldn't really trust this one. But again, she has the dirt form where others in this field just don't. So a little bit of a question with some of the other horses that are trying the surface for the first time. You have Long Live the Queen in the mix, another one who is getting onto the dirt for the first time in her career.
Yeah, the dam side's bred for dirt. Auspicious was a sprinter and on the dirt. 2 back, listen, had the excuse at the start. I mean, and then they just didn't even bother after that. They kind of just toured the track after that. I mean, last time out was at least forward for a bit before packing it in. So I'm hoping coming back now off the layoff, and Arnold Delacour's got decent numbers doing this. we'll see what happens with this horse on the dirt first time out. I think this horse could be forwardly placed at least anyway if this horse breaks, maybe sitting in that second tier.
Yeah, this is a tough last race and way to close things out on today's card. So certainly plenty of directions to go in for the finale today, race number 8. And this will, of course, be part of that cross-country pick 5 that we have with Oaklawn. I think it's the second leg of that sequence. And, of course, you'll be playing all of the races through NYRA Bets, and you'll get signed up over at nyrabets.com with that $200 deposit match sign-up bonus, promo code MATCH200. Make sure that you get involved and play all of today's racing here at Oaklawn and anywhere. We also have a $20 Derby Prep win bonus. If you bet $25 on the Springboard Mile Stakes over at Remington Park, you can earn an extra $20 if you opt in over at nyrabets.com. Interesting field assembled for that race that takes place later on. The cross-country pick 5 races, 2 from Aqueduct, 3 from Oaklawn today, begins at 3:40 p.m. Eastern. We'll start in race number 7 here at Aqueduct and head on over to Oaklawn for 3 races over there. And we have coverage of the sequence today on America's Day at the Races beginning at 2:30 p.m. over on FS2. Paul, what's your best opinion of the day?
My best opinion of the day. Just put me on the spot right there, right?
I did.
I am
Greg
going...
does this to me all the time. It's my turn.
Okay. Now I understand. All right, Mischief Joke.
Okay.
Mischief Joke for me at a price is my best opinion of the day.
All right.
I knew you were
sounds
going
good.
to do that to me. I will see you after the holiday break. Now I don't have to worry about that question for a week and a half.
All right. Well, see you after the break, Paul. I'll be on with Maggie for the rest of this weekend. And good luck to everybody playing today's races.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Aqueduct. 8 races on today's Friday afternoon card. Track is fast. Take a look at today's scratches and changes at Aqueduct. Race 1 starts the early pick 5. It's clear. No changes in today's first. Race 2 started the early pick 4. Scratch the 1 strapped. Race 3 started the pick 6. Scratch the 1A. He's my honey badger. Scratch the 7, Cowan. Race 4 started the late pick 5. The 1 will wear a cheek piece again. Scratch the 5, Dale Avenue. The 6, make the jockey Trev McCarthy. In race 5, started the late pick 4. Jockey change on the 2, make it Jose Gomez. Jockey change on the 3, make it Andre Worry. Race 6, scratch the 5, Watch Over Me. The 8 is +1. Race 7, scratch the 2, Bon Chance. Jockey on the 10, make it Ruben Silvera, 1 pound over. Race 8, the 4 is +2, and scratch the 10, Harlan's Bond. Got a cross-country pick 5 for you coming up a little bit later on this afternoon as well. Look forward to the cross-country pick 5. Covers racing action from here and also at Oaklawn Park. So look forward to that on this Friday. The track is fast. Early pick 5 is coming up at Aqueduct. Good luck.
Experience the adrenaline-pumping, suspense-filled action of the Sport of Kings no matter where you are with Naira Bets. It's fast, easy, and secure. Download the app today and start winning with our lucrative weekly promotions, thrilling handicapping contests, and a one-of-a-kind VIP rewards program. Don't just watch horse racing, be a part of the action with Naira Bets.